everyone. My name is Kevin Sitters. I'm the president of VinConnect, and it's my great pleasure today to introduce Laura Bianchi, the proprietor of Castello di Monsanto in Chianti in Italy. Castello di Monsanto is a historic estate in the Chianti Classico region of Italy, where they produce both traditional Sangiovese-based wines as well as a few other grape varieties. The estate was founded around 1961 when Fabrizio Bianchi was bequeathed some land in Chianti, and he started producing wines in the early 60s. And his daughter Laura, who's with us today, took over around the year 2000, taking the winery's reputation for quality and ageability to new and unprecedented heights. So we're thrilled to have Laura Bianchi with us today to chat more about the winery, its history, and some of the changes going on these days in the Chianti Classico region. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Kevin. Hello to everybody. Glad to be with you today.
I'm super excited to have you. And maybe as a place to start, it would be great if you wouldn't mind spending maybe a few minutes for some of our listeners who are less familiar with the estate, just giving some context about your history and sort of orienting everyone to where you are and the wines you produce today.
Yeah, sure. So Castello di Monsanto is located in the central western part of the Chianti Classico denomination, so in the heart of Tuscany. The name of the winery is also the name of the village where we are located. Monsanto in the Italian language means holy mountain, and is the name of the village given to this place in 998. So it's a very old name because a saint died here, San Rufiniano, and a beautiful church was built to remember this man. And the property has been existing since 1700 and producing wine since so long. And then has been bought by my grandfather, as you mentioned, in 1961. My grandfather was born in San Gimignano, the beautiful medieval village famous for towers. But he needed to leave Tuscany before World War II to find a job. He moved to Milan. And later, after the war, he decided to open a textile business. He made some money and he was able to buy something near where he was born. He came to Monsanto and he immediately fell in love of the view from the castle because it's possible to see San Gimignano. And so they decided to buy the property. But it's been really my father, Fabrizio, who discovered the wine potential of this place. He was very young at that time. I was about 25 years old, but he grew up in a property making wine in Piedmont, owned by my grandmother. So his love, his passion for wine started since he was a child. And he immediately made here big changes as soon as he arrived, including, the idea to produce a wine able to challenge with the best production all over the world. Because at that time, most of the wine produced in this area was for a local consumption and easy drinking wines for every day. His idea was influenced by Piedmont, that was more influenced by France 60 years ago, to start to create wines able to compete with the best production in the world. So my father and my mom, because they received the winery as a wedding gift in 1964, they started this adventure with a great vision, with pioneeristic decisions, and for sure with a lot of work. That for sure. They worked really very hard. And me personally, I arrived, as you said, I started end of the 80s. But it took me 10 years to really be in charge. So I consider my first personal harvest 1999.
Fantastic. And so almost 25 years now. That's
Yeah.
What a track record. Well, that's super helpful. I appreciate that context. And one of the things we wanted to cover today is maybe a review of some of the evolution of the Chianti Classico region here in recent years. I think, the timing is good because this year, 2024, I guess, is the 100th anniversary of the Consorzio in Chianti. Probably one of the most successful consortiums of wine producers probably anywhere, just in terms of its organization and its influence. But despite that amount of age, it's actually been a very dynamic organization, certainly in recent years, with a lot of different developments going on in and around Chianti. We've had some new classifications in terms of quality, a push for new sort of regional village designations, and other things. So I wondered if you might share some of your thoughts on some of the recent evolutions in those areas, and maybe others in Chianti that make it maybe a much more dynamic region than people might be aware.
Yeah, I'm very proud to be part of this denomination and be part of the Chianti Classico Consorzio, which is the association that put together all the wine producer of the area. Because the denomination Chianti Classico was born more than 300 years ago, when in 1716, the Granduca Cosimo di Toscana, for the first time in the world, linked a wine to a territory and called this area Chianti. Later, 200 years later, is a long story that I try to make very short. The Italian government enlarged the area and called Chianti the wine produced outside the original area, and Chianti Classico the wine produced in the original area, so the one between Florence and Siena. In 1924, 33 founders create the first ever made consortio, so association of wine producer, and this year is the 100th anniversary of the consortio, which is for sure, as you mentioned, one of the most dynamic association in Italy, not only promoting, of course, the wine Chianti Classico, but also, is an association to control also the entire denomination.
I think it's interesting, and I think when people think of consortiums, maybe that's what comes to mind first. This notion of a bunch of rules and regulations designating, how the wine is made, and that it sort of fits a certain quality standard. But I think the sort of marketing and promotional aspects and sort of developmental aspects is something that maybe consumers see less of, but are as or more important, particularly with some of the things that the Chianti Consortium has done in the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, there has been so many changes and so many new things introduced for the entire denomination, for the regulation also on the production. 10 years ago, the Gran Selezione has been introduced as a new category on the peak of the pyramid. So join the Annata, which is the youngest Chianti Classico, the Riserva, and then at the peak of the pyramid, the Gran Selezione, with more restricted rules to be produced, and very much linked to the territory. So is a type of wine that really need to be to come from your own grown grapes. It cannot be produced with grapes that you produce a winery can buy, or a wine boat. So 100% your own estate grown grapes. And the Gran Selezione for sure put a new attention on Chianti Classico. Also because it's a wine that can really show all the peculiarities, the characteristics of Sangiovese, born in different subzones, in different areas inside the territory. So there is a new attention also to stimulate the little bit differences between Sangiovese grown from Greve to a one grown from Radda or San Donato in Poggio, where we are. And then the other important, very, very important decision made a few years ago is to subdivide the territory in 11 subzones that we call UGA, Unità Geografiche Aggiuntive. They are linked to villages inside the territory. And this has given us the possibility also as a wine producer to better understand what is born in here or there inside the denomination. It's creating a lot of curiosity and for more sophisticated consumers, a new attention on the territory. That's really important because I think Chianti Classico is a territory with so many different types of soils, microclimes. So there is so much to discover. And of course, also the philosophy of each producer can make the difference. But there is a new consciousness inside. To really to produce wine able to show the sense of the place, to respect the characteristics of each single parcel, vineyards inside the property and inside the areas. And this is fundamental, I mean, to give personality to wines.
So what will the first vintages be bottled with the UGA designations?
By the UGA has been introduced, approved by the government a year and a half ago, but gave the possibility to submit because you need an authorization to use the UGA name on the label.
Okay.
Also to some previous vintages. For instance, at Monsanto, we've been able to edit on the label of the Gran Selezione single-vineyard Il Poggio 2019.
Oh, wow.
Our 2019 has already the name San Donato in Poggio, which is our UGA, on the label. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, that's very cool. So
yeah.
Depending on when you get the approvals, you can...
Yeah, you need to, there is a process to approve. Yes, be approved.
So I guess it really will sort of be producer by producer then in terms of when they
submitted the approval. Yeah.
Gotcha. Interesting. And then to circle back, you touched on the Gran Selezione designation and the drive for more a higher level of quality and more site specificity as being really beneficial for marketing and promotional purposes. But you didn't touch on the way that is reflective of something that you guys began in the 60s with the individual single vineyard bottling of Il Poggio. And so I'm curious as to how it's felt for you to have something that you initiated, almost 60 plus years ago now, you sort of adopted more broadly by the consortium as a great idea. When back then, I'm sure, people thought you were crazy for bottling something this way and designating it that way. And now, 60 years later, you're geniuses.
Yeah, my father was able to see ahead for sure. And in 1962, he decided to vinificate the grapes coming from the single vineyard Il Poggio by themselves. And he created, this is recognized, the first ever made single cru in the entire denomination. So very advantage philosophy for the moment. So Il Poggio has always been a Gran Selezione
Yeah,
since
me too.
more than 60 years. So I really talked about if put the name Gran Selezione on the Il Poggio or not when the regulation changed. Um,
Interesting, sure.
yeah, it was a long reflection, thinking. Um, but at the end, I said to myself, um, we need to work everybody on the same direction inside the denomination. And if we put the Gran Selezione mention on the Il Poggio, that was in a sort of sense the first Gran Selezione ever produced, is a message to everybody that we need to
Sure.
believe in our territory, in the changes of the rules that are made to improve overall the perception of the denomination. And so at a certain point, I say I'm proud to put the Gran Selezione mention on the Il Poggio. And so I did it with the vintage 2014. So the first vintage of Il Poggio with Gran Selezione is the 14.
Well, I can imagine that because you've been producing that wine this way for so long, and because you maintain a stock of library vintages of that wine, that there might have been some value in this process to be able to demonstrate the sort of history and ageability and distinctiveness of wine from, one single plot, as opposed to things made more broadly. That had
Yes,
to
we
be
have
neat.
my father at the beginning, of course, and later me. We always deeply believe in the capacity of aging of this wine. And my father started in the 60s to keep a considerable amount of bottle for longer aging. You always telling me, Laura, you cannot imagine how many people told me in the 60s or in the 70s, are you crazy? Why are you keeping this bottle? Are you wasting your money? You need
Yeah,
money to invest in the vineyards, in the cellar, to build, the new cellar, and you're keeping this wine, not selling them. And my father always answered, I believe in my wine. I love aged wine because it's also
mm,
his personal taste. And this is my investment in the future. And this has always been a big lesson for me too.
sure.
Believe in what you're doing, invest in the wine, and the re-releasing of all the vintages of Opus has been so successful for us. And he left me a treasure because he left me bottles from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, so that we can still re-release once in a
Yeah.
while.
Yeah, did Antonio Bologna do a vertical with you guys a few years ago? Is that right?
Yeah, 2 years ago, but the article was issued last year. We made with him for the first time a vertical tasting of all the vintages produced from Il Poggio, starting from 62.
Wow.
Was a great day because it was the first time for me too to taste
That.
them one after the other. We
Yeah,
took many hours also to see the evolution of each vintage at the opening of the bottle, after 1 hour, after 3 hours. We
sure.
also retaste them the day after, which was
Yeah.
very interesting too. And it was for sure a great experience. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's the kind of thing where you invite everybody, the whole family, and the neighbors,
Yeah.
and everyone who's contributed. I'm sure
Yeah, for sure.
that's fantastic. One other thing I wanted to talk about is as we think about evolutions or changes in Chianti Classico is your role as a leading woman winemaker, both in the region and maybe on a larger stage. I can imagine that when you took over, there weren't many or maybe any in Chianti, female proprietors or winemakers, and I'm just curious how you've seen that evolution or element of your role evolve over sort of the next kind of 25 years or so since then.
Yeah, when I started more than 30 years ago, honestly, women involved in this business, in very few.
Yeah.
Uh, if I well remember, in 1988, was founded the Association of Donne del Vino, Women in the Wine Business. And in Tuscany, we were 20. But most of them were the wife of the producer, the
Yeah.
daughter of the producer, not so many women involved personally and directly in the business. And I also remember when I started here, most of the workers at the winery did not believe that I would stay. I mean,
I can
she will
imagine.
last 6 months.
Mhm.
I'm still here. Just because I'm a woman. But this was the mentality of 30
Sure.
years ago. Now I'm so happy to say that in Chianti Classico, because we are making some analysis, almost 50% of the wineries are owned or managed by a woman.
No kidding.
Yeah,
Wow.
48%.
That's
So
fantastic.
there is a woman involved in the higher managing position.
Mhm.
At Monsanto, 50% of the people involved in the working from the office to the
Yeah.
winery cellar are women. So there are more and more women involved in all level. And I think in the future there will be more and more. There are also speaking with schools, enologists or agronomists. There are more women studying this type of business. So I'm sure in the future women will be more and more involved. And I'm so happy to work with women. I mean, I have a deep respect with the other part of the gender, but I'm happy to have a great team overall, and I'm happy to have 50% women involved.
Yeah, we, at VinConnect, we have worked with a number of, across our 85 winery partners now. Obviously, we have a number of female-run wineries as well. People like Chiara Boschi in Piemonte and Elena Fucci in Campania, um, Laurence Farod at the Main de Pego and Chateau de Pop. I mean, there are so many fantastic and brilliant and strong women running wineries now and doing innovative things and bringing sort of new energy and new ideas that it's I think a very exciting time for everybody as a result.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad that inside Chianti Classico, in the entire denomination, there are more and more women involved.
Yeah. And speaking of sort of new ideas and new energy, there are always new generations of winemakers and people involved in wineries, bringing their own ideas and things. And I know that your daughter is getting more involved in some of the things that you're doing. And I'm just curious how you view, having been through your own transition, if you will, sort of into that role, how you start to think about integrating more new ideas and maybe next steps down the road as well.
Yeah, when you are working in a family business, there are always good and bad things because there are, I mean, aspects that are involving the feelings, the relationship, and aspects that are involving just business and decision to be made for the winery. So for me personally, it's not always been easy. I mean, my relationship with my father is fantastic, but we had also huge discussion. And I remember we didn't talk for 3 months just for a percentage of 2% of a wine.
The really important stuff.
Yeah, the really important stuff. And so personal things enter into the business things. But it's also the beauty of being a family involved in a business, in a winery. what I'm trying to do now with my daughter that just started to be involved, my daughter Julia, is to listen to her as much as possible, and also try to transmit my experience to her as much
Sure.
as possible. I want her to be, she's mostly in charge on US market as a brand ambassador, but I want her to be involved in the everyday aspect of the life inside the winery. It's so important that she can really understand in a deeper way everything, all what is going on every single day at the property. And she has such an enthusiasm and passion that I can smile because you cannot do this job without a love, a passion for what we're doing. Yeah.
Sure. Well, it's got to make you feel good to know that you have a member of the family who has the interest and the passion to take on and maintain what your family has already spent so
Yeah, and
much time
she's the
building.
first one involved. Maybe someone else will, which is still very young, will be able to join.
There you go.
Let's see. I don't want to put any pressure
Of
on
course.
my children. They need to love this job, and let's see.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted to ask you about it in terms of evolution of things in Chianti Classico has been I would assume that just a dramatic increase in sort of hospitality and tourism and American visitors and all of that, taking on a more sort of intentional, sort of commercial sort of aspect. And I'm just curious how you or maybe the winemakers more broadly feel about sort of the balance of maintaining a real sort of natural authenticity to what you do and maintaining the traditions of the places it's always been, combined with this increasing interest and fervor for people coming to visit and tasting and having experiences and things like that. I'm just curious how you think about that and balance those things.
Yeah, for sure. If I compare 20 or 30 years ago, the request of visit to the winery are incredible increase. We have people every day. It can only be made by reservation. And for us, it's so important that all the people that visit us has really go out from the winery with a knowledge not only about Monsanto but also the territory, the denomination, an experience that can give a lot of information. We don't want to be too touristic, honestly. We like to open, we love to open the gate of the winery to all the people that really want to know more, to experience something inside the cellar, without being, massive place of tasting. This is why it's only by reservation, and all the tours are made with small amount of people, so that people can do any questions. There is really like a seminars during the visit to really understand what's going on. And Chianti Classico is also a fantastic territory to visit because 60% of the territory is covered by forest, and then vineyards and little villages. So there is a deep respect on nature all over the territory, and coming to Chianti Classico is also experience a natural moment for sure, and beautiful landscape.
It really is special for folks who haven't had the chance to go. I highly encourage it, but it's even in the years I've been going there in the last dozen years or so, it seems like certainly some things have changed in terms of the commercial orientation, but it still retains a tremendous amount of sort of rustic charm and
Yeah.
I mean, there aren't exactly McDonald's around or anything, and Bolzano, downtown Bolzano is still pretty much the
Yeah,
same as it's
great
always
food.
been. So
Yeah.
fantastic.
Mm.
Well, hopefully people will get a chance to go and visit the region and maybe Castello di Monsanto as well, because it is a very special place and wines that are fantastic. I
Yeah,
don't
and
know,
there
are there
is
any
this
other?
beautiful gallery to visit inside the cellar, a gallery 300 meters long, built by hand by three men when they were 70 years old. So a concept.
I've seen it and it is definitely impressive for sure. Are there any other sort of final comments or observations you'd like to make for folks about the consortio or Chianti in general or your estate?
No, I think I'm in love with this denomination, not because I'm part of it, but it's really, really beautiful. And in the last years, there's been such an improve in the quality of the wine and the attention on Sangiovese that for sure make all the Chianti classical wines a high level of quality and wines able to show the territory, to show what is this area for wine growing. So I'm very proud of the entire denomination
Yeah, it's really been
improvement.
fantastic to follow
Yeah,
the growth and evolution of the region, and I think the wines are certainly better than they've ever been in terms of the quality and the execution, and that's a testimony to the hard work and investment of folks
yeah.
like you and your neighbors, and really continuing to try to deliver great products. So, and anyway, well, look, thanks so much for your time, Laura. I really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Kevin.
It's been a pleasure to talk to you about Castello di Monsanto and about Chianti Classico in general. And hopefully folks will take the opportunity to seek out the wines and learn more about your state. So thanks so much for your time, and
Thank you
we'll
so
look forward to
much.
chatting again.
And see you in Monsanto.
All right. Ciao,
Ciao.
ciao. Okay, so I think we're done. No,
Okay.
hold on.